YouTube, what's up? Welcome back to my channel.
Another one?
In today's video we have a nice low fade and a beard trim as well. Right, to start this haircut off, we're going to set in our profile section, right down the centre of the head. And then we're going to come in and choose our desired length, starting from the front of the head, maintaining small sections and only cutting to the second knuckle. The reason we cut to the second knuckle is so that it can keep a consistent amount of tension on the hair and keeping the shape consistent on top. We're creating a square shape on top today, so what I mean by this is combing each section into the new section to counteract the roundness on top of the head. Here what I'm explaining to my client is my brother, is that when the hair is growing in a certain direction, cut the hair in which the hair wants to lay. As you can see, his hair grows backwards in that section, so that I'm going to cut his hair to go back, and the way he styles his hair is back, so you don't want to counteract that by cutting the hair to go forwards. As you can see guys, our guide is very clear. Be sure not to cut if you can't see the guide. New rule, no guide, no cut. We're now moving on to the other side of the head, setting in our profile section again, setting it right straight down the middle of the head, keeping it clean, and make sure not to have it too wide. What I suggest is keeping it about 2 fingers in width. As you just saw there guys, I'm using my scissors so I can see my guide clearly. If you can't see it, don't cut like I just said. We're now cutting from the back of the head because it allows us to keep a good posture. When taking these sections, make sure to take hair from the previous section so that you have some guide left. As you can see, I just used my scissor to comb away the new hair and see the old hair that has previously been cut. Guys, make sure to comment down below if you want to see more scissor technique haircuts, and let me know what you want to see. Longer hair, shorter hair. When cutting hair with the scissors, try and retract the scissor blade when you cut the hair. It will create a sharper cutting line and keeping it consistent. We're now going to come in and cross check, and what I mean by cross check is cutting the hair the opposite way you cut it before. We were cutting it vertically before, we're now going to cut it horizontally to get rid of any flyaways. We're now moving into the sides. We're going to create some diagonal graduation in the contour area. And the contour area is where the head starts to round into the top. Graduation in the contour is make sure that on this side of the head your fingertips are pointing the ceiling and the palm of your hands are facing the floor. We're now coming in doing some clipper work. I'm going to come straight in with the Andes Superstar and setting our ball guideline. Instead of starting with a 2, it's because this hair is already short, I can afford to come in with the shortest clipper that I have. When setting in this ball guideline, I like to put it in softly rather than turning the clip around and put it in harsh, just because I find it easier to take it out. Whatever you feel more comfortable with, you do. Quickly following that up, we're now going to come in with a 2 guard open, just to remove the bulk on top of that line and just prepare us to get that fade set in. Remembering to come square off of the head so that you don't dig into the graduation you created on the sides, otherwise you'll create yourself a massive problem. We're now coming in and closing that lever, again still coming square off the head. Using the head shape as a guide, don't go into the roundness, let the clipper flow nicely off the side of the head. We're now coming in and setting in our second guideline. This is our 0.5 guideline. A bit like the last video, if you haven't watched it, make sure to go check it out. We're going to take this guideline over the ear and keeping it about an inch in width and keeping it as consistent as possible. As you can see, we're now setting in our second guideline, the 1.5 guideline, and we're going to keep that in about 1 inch to 1.5 inches in width, making sure it's consistent as possible. And then we're just going to descend down, and what I mean by this is closing the lever ever so slightly, just to remove those middle lines. But while remembering that this line will not be completely removed, you'll need to follow up with a 0.5 guard. I open and close my lever a lot while I'm cutting, just because it allows me to get rid of those dark spots that I see straight away, and it's almost like detailing as I go, so there isn't as much to do at the end. I do apologise if you see my nose poking at some points in the video. I've recently just got a new camera and I'm just trying to figure out how to use it. And now we're coming in, removing that lower line, again by closing the lever ever so slightly as you work down. But we're doing a lot of lever play, as you can see. I'm opening and closing the lever a lot, just to keep that as smooth as possible and detailing while I go. If you look, I'm opening and closing that lever a lot. This allows me to get rid of the dark spots as I go. And we're now going to follow this up using the 1.5 guard at the top, just to get rid of the weight between the 2 and the 1.5. This should soften the weight, but you will have to follow up with a 1.5 guard again, the 1 guard open, and then you'll have to detail the whole side just to kind of set you apart from the rest and get your haircut to the next level. See, I'm now coming in with the 0.5 guard just to soften that line between the lever open and the 1 guard. And as you can see, I'm using a lot of lever play again, just to kind of, as I go up, I open the lever. If I stay lower, I close the lever. You'll work it out as you go, but right now we're really detailing the cut. We're coming in with the 1 guard open again, just to soften that weight between the tops. I still feel like it's a little bit dark. Remember to dust off your client. I'm using my hairdryer. We're now moving on to the other side, setting in our 0 guideline. Same steps as before. We're going to follow this up with the 2 guard open, then 2 guard closed, and then we're going to set in our 0.5 guideline just over the ear, and then follow that up with the 1 guard open, and then close that lever ever so slightly and soften that middle line, and then we're going to follow that up with the 1.5 guard, and then we're going to follow up the 0.5 guard and detail. I'm going to leave you and let you follow the steps, and I'll be back in a little while. Guys, if you haven't already, make sure to smash that like button, hit the subscribe, and make sure to turn on the bell notification so you know when I next upload. Also, comment down below what your favourite clipper is. For me, it's the Wall Magic clip. Oi, oi, cheese and bread. Look at that fade coming together. Absolutely buttery. But guys, remember to use that C motion so you get rid of any harsh lines. Okay, we're moving on to the back now. We're just setting our ball guideline. The steps are slightly different on the back. We're now coming straight in with the wall 1.5 guard open, and then we're going to quickly follow that up with the wall guard closed, and then we're now going to come in with our 0.5 guard, slowly descending our lever, closing it ever so slightly, and then we're going to follow this up quickly with the 1 guard open, as you can see right there, and then we're going to quickly flick that into the top, and then we're going to close the lever just to soften that middle line. As you can see, we're using that C motion. Just then, close the lever, soften that middle line, open and close that lever as you go, and I like to flick my clipper a lot. The reason I like to flip my clipper is because it allows me to keep soft the guidelines that stops me making anything too harsh. Simple as that. As you can see, we're now coming in with the 0.5 guard just to soften it up. In this area I found it that it was still a little bit dark, and because the hair was growing in different directions, don't be afraid to change the angle of your clipper just so you can cut all hair as even as possible. I like to use this 0.5 guard to detail a lot. As you can see, I'm opening and closing my lever a lot as I go, and I'm now coming in with the 2 guard open just to remove that bulk at the top and soften that line that you see where you did the graduation and your clipper work begun. And now we're coming back in with the 1 guard open just to detail furthermore, and like I say, this is what sets you apart, and I cannot stress enough how important this is. My appointment times I run my haircuts for are 45 minutes, and that just allows me some more time to detail. I probably end up spending 10-15 minutes detailing, and I can't tell you how important this is. Your clients will notice the difference when you start to do it. Here we go, we're coming in with the Scissor-over-comb. This is what we're going to angle our comb out at 45 degrees, keeping the top of the comb facing towards you and maintaining a static blade on the scissor. And what I mean by a static blade is only your thumb moves and your fingers stay still, so that the bottom stays still and parallel to the comb. If you look there, I'm bringing my comb right up high, and this will allow me to relayer the hair and soften all the hair on the sides. We're now going to move straight into the shape up with our Babulous Gold FX. I've got the graphite one. This trimmer is unbelievable. It's so sharp. Right, we're setting in this C-cut. We're going to set in our first guideline just under the vertical bar, and then we're going to add the slight curve to the side, keeping it as natural as possible and following the natural hair growth. We're now moving on to the other side. This side I like to hook it a little bit more just because I'm right-handed. I find it a little bit easier, but if you prefer to follow it like you did on the other side, do that. As you can see, his hair grows slightly different on this side, it grows back, so while remembering always to cut against the hair growth, that's how you maintain the sharpest line possible. We're following that up with the foil shaver. I like to use the Babyliss foil shaver and I add this grip onto it just because I find it a little bit slippery. Make sure to follow this up with this razor because it gets it as bald as possible and it allows us to keep that contrast. When using the foil shaver, I like to do it in circular motions just because it reduces the risk of setting in any lines. These lines are so hard, so you want to try and avoid setting in any lines, but if you do, just follow up with your trimmer and it should come out, but try and avoid setting them in. We're now coming in with the thinning scissors just to soften up the area between the clipper work and the scissor work on top, just because I felt like I could do it a little bit more. Right, beard time. One of my favourite things to do. I love doing beards. So we're going to take the overall length down to a 1.5 guard, and then we're going to kind of fade it underneath while descending down the guard. So we're going to go to a 1 guard open, 1 guard closed, 0.5 and then 0. We're not going to set in any guidelines. As seen here, you can see that I'm turning the clipper over just because the hair at the bottom of the neck grows upwards, and this is so that I'm cutting against the grain at all times. And now I'm going with the grain, just with a 1.5. Now we're closing that lever ever so slightly, just to fade out that bottom line, and then Bob's your uncle, you should have a nice fade underneath. We're now coming in to fade that top line, so I've just started with the 1 guard open, now the 1 guard closed, now the 0.5, now we're going to close that lever ever so slightly, and then we're going to close it fully, and then we're going to follow it up with the trimmer afterwards, just to make sure that bottom line's gone, and that's how you fade it. Now coming in to the line out, a bit like you would shape up the hairline, keeping it as natural as possible, but maintaining a straight horizontal line. Remembering not to press too hard because this could get irritated depending on how close your clippers are set. Make sure to get rid of all the excess hair and keep it as clean as possible. I like to follow the top line up with the trimmer before I use the razor, just because it allows me not to snag on the hair with the razor and it's all a nice comfortable shave for the client. Now coming in with the razor, I did previously add some talcum powder so that the skin wouldn't get irritated and it allowed me to have a nice smooth surface to use the razor on. Remembering to pull the opposite way with your opposite finger to keep tension and keeping the blade at a 45-degree angle. And we're going to remember to get rid of all these flyaways on the cheeks because no one wants to walk away with hair on them. And follow up the line a couple of times to keep it as sharp as possible. And then with the shape up, again going against the grain, keeping the blade at a 45-degree angle, keep pulling the skin taut so there's no chance of cutting the client. I like to add talcum powder to the cheek because it allows you to create that ash line and it looks great for photos. Adds good contrast with a dark beard.
Damn it, Tito. Another one?
Guys, make sure to comment down below if you like this video and what you'd like to see next. Right, so let's have a recap. Here's the before. Oi oi! Cheese and bread. Here's the after. Guys, if you did enjoy today's video, please remember to comment, like, subscribe and hit that bell notification. It really does help, and I'll see you soon. Peace.